A room full of people. It must be something exciting getting ready to happen tonight. What I'd like to do is if everybody would stand up. We have some young men in the back of the room back here, Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts, would you like to come up front here? They're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll just step right up. Can I get your names? What's your name? Tyler Doby. Gilbert. William McCluskey. Carter Gilbert. Are you brothers? Yes. It's an honor to have you here. If you would, face the flag behind me here and start us off in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. If you'll remain standing for a moment of silence. You may be seated. That brings us to welcoming events that are coming up here, and I know some of them are coming up next week. I do this every time. I just got to find what I did with the events page. First of all, I do know next week, on next Thursday, is Hits After 6. Right across the street in the park over there. If you've never been to Hits After 6, this will be a great one to come see. It's going to be a Fleetwood Mac, not Fleetwood Mac, but the Fleetwood Mac band that sounds a lot like Fleetwood Mac, but they're going to be here Thursday, and we have a good time. And people get up and dance, and we have a ball. And then, Abby, when is Facebook Live? It's next Thursday, the 20th. 20th at 1 o'clock. And let me tell you a little bit. Facebook Live is a Facebook show, and we have a special guest, and we've had just about everybody up here, except for Marcus, has been on Facebook Live. And this week, you need to turn into Facebook. It's at 1 o'clock on next Thursday. We're having, it's Brent Knight is going to be here, and he's the head of DOT. Now, we got lots of people that have questions for DOT in this room. I know, widening of Monroe Road and many resurfacing questions. So get your questions ready. You can watch the show and call in, or not call in, but write in your questions, or you can give Abby your questions before we ever get started. And she does a wonderful job of getting this done for us. So, Abby, am I missing anything? Because I can't find my sheet. Those are the two things that I'd like to tell everybody about. So, with that being said, we're going to move down to the, and I've got to do something else too. I got to ask, before we get to the agenda, ask the council, there's interest in moving the next budget meeting from April 20th at 5 o'clock p.m. to April 25th at 5 p.m., which is our council meeting, which means that, we don't have to come 2 different days, and staff doesn't have to come 2 different days. Can I get a show of hands that would want to change it to do that? Okay.
You just want to go to the concert.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but that is true. And I do want to go to the concert. But what we'll do is, if somebody will add that to the agenda, so when we get to agenda additions and deletions, do I have any additions?
Yeah, I have an addition. I guess we put it on the old business, new business?
Can we do that, Karen, or can we just vote on it right now?
I forgot about the buttons. Go ahead and add it to, I'd say, old business.
Old business,
and
yeah.
as a motion.
All right, so, Mayor, I'd like to add an item to the agenda on the old business. We'll put it as item number C, as in Charlie, which is the rescheduling of the budget meeting from Thursday, April 20th to the Tuesday, April 25th, with a start time of 5 p.m.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. And you said C, correct?
C as in Charlie, yes, sir.
Okay, I have my agendas from yesterday. Do we have a D on there? So shouldn't we move it, I mean, excuse me, to B? Should we?
There is an,
I don't have a B on mine, so that.
I have a B
I'll
on
find
mine.
it.
Ken is a 9C.
9C, right. I don't have a 9B on my agenda, but that's okay. I got it. I got another agenda, so don't worry about it. All right, 9C. All right. Very good.
a
All
vote.
right, now can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Yeah. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, that brings us to presentations and public comments. On the public comments, by addressing council, you acknowledge you have read the town's public comment rules and will abide by them. I noticed that some people, when you signed up for public comments, this public comments that we're doing right now is the general public comments. If you have comments on the neighborhood that's coming up, and I think that's what, I think a few of you that signed this, I'll just call your name, tell me that you want to talk about the neighborhood that's coming up in your area. Does everybody understand that? Got it? Did I explain that well enough? Okay, all right. All right, brings us to public comments. Michael Falconberry, come on up.
Good evening, Michael Falconberry, live in Piggott Circle. In 1984, while I was in the Air Force, I became a lifetime member of the Air Force Association. I paid $250, got a nice certificate, hang on the wall, framed, get a free magazine once a month the rest of my life, and that's about it. I don't attend any meetings because the nearest location for the meetings is probably 100 miles away. That being said, yes, I am a lifetime member, but it doesn't mean squat, because I don't vote, I don't participate in the meetings. Also, it was revealed in the last council meeting, council member said he ran for corruption. I'm assuming he meant he ran against corruption, but no examples provided. So you have a town staff over the last several years have gotten outstanding audits. Okay? Also, is that referred to elected officials, past or present? If it's past, 3 of you are part of the past council. Now, of all the documents I've obtained over the years, I haven't seen any corruption. That's a fact. I've seen bad decisions made because of personalities and egos, or not thinking the whole process through with whatever information they might have at their disposal. So I would encourage a council member to either explain the corruption or apologize, because I'm sure a lot of feelings were hurt with that comment. Also, the meeting minutes, I've noticed, and I've addressed this with the town manager, this is not against the town staff by any means, but when I have something I've addressed in public comments in a news article, but yet in the meeting minutes, there's no mention of it. When you look at each document, you're thinking, what's going on? That's not jiving with each other. So I want to encourage, if there's somehow, some way, if nothing else, put the link to the YouTube video in the meeting minutes for that meeting so people can see in detail. I understand it's time consuming to do meeting minutes. Again, it's not against town staff. It's a very demanding job. But if there's another way to link it so people are aware that they do not attend the meetings or not aware of the YouTube channel. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to Taylor, I think it's, is it Taylor Martin or McIntyre? What is it? McIntyre. Okay, come on up.
Thank you. Good evening, members of Town Council. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to thank you for your service to the community and your dedication to making our town a better place to live and work. As a concerned citizen, I appreciate the opportunity to address the council during this period of public comment. I would like to present a compelling argument for the use of electronic collars as an effective tool for training, controlling, and restraining dogs. There is a wealth of peer-reviewed studies and expert opinions that support the use of electronic collars for dogs, particularly working dogs, which require precise training and control. These collars are an effective tool for managing certain types of behaviors without compromising dog welfare. For instance, a study published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior found that electronic collars produce significantly lower levels of cortisol, a hormone associated with stress, compared to traditional training methods, suggesting that they're less stressful for dogs. In addition to being an effective and control tool, electronic collars can also be a valuable safety tool for dogs and their owners. They can help prevent dogs from running into traffic and other dangerous situations, particularly off-leash settings such as parks, hiking trails, you name it. Furthermore, electronic collars can provide an alternative means of controlling dogs for individuals with physical disabilities or impairments, such as those who have amputations or use wheelchairs or have other conditions or impairments that restrict mobility. Contrary to popular misconception, electronic collars do not cause harm or pain to dogs when used properly. The American Kennel Club, for example, states that when used correctly, electronic collars can be a safe and effective tool for training and controlling dogs. This sentiment is further supported by numerous professional organizations and veterinary associations. Restraining dogs is a critical aspect of responsible pet ownership. It not only helps to prevent the harm to the dog, but also protects members of the public and other animals. While traditional methods of restraining dogs can be effective, they may not always be sufficient or compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, especially for individuals with disabilities. Therefore, I would ask Mayor and council members to repeal the recent prohibition regarding electronic collars used as a means of restraining dogs. Repealing this prohibition would not remove liability or responsibility from the owner, but it would allow owners and those with disabilities to use this effective tool to manage their dogs and ensure their safety while also providing greater flexibility and control. I would like to thank you all for your time and consideration. Thank you.
I think the next is Asu Ramirez. Is it
Oscar Ramirez.
Ramirez? Yes, Mr. Ramirez.
So it's around the same thing. Do we have one spokesperson or do we all talk?
That's up to you. If you want to,
So absolutely. Good evening, council. My name is Oscar Ramirez of Indian Trail. I'm with Taylor. So recently we did have a decision that was overturned without us even knowing on the e-collar issue. So as Taylor was mentioning, that an e-collar can effectively control a dog more so than a leash. My wife, she's 90 pounds when she's fully dressed. Our dog is 85 pounds. So if you can picture a 90-pound woman trying to control a dog with a leash, things can go wrong. Versus with an e-collar, you can quickly correct a dog and you can quickly make a dog come back to you from further distance. So we'd like to have that recent ordinance turn back into the effective e-collars, such as electrical fence, right? So electrical fences is the same form of an e-collar. There's no visible people or individuals in the yard that you can see that's controlling a dog other than the actual e-collar. That's all I have.
thank you. We also have Andy Hallivan. Andy, do you want to speak?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Andy Hanlon. I'm the owner of Dogs by Andy Canine Services. I've been in the dog industry professionally for 45 years. I've got dogs at 81 police departments and every federal agency the United States government has. I'm also an expert witness in state and federal court on police canine issues. To find out that you guys changed the laws governing e-collars without doing any research is, to me, crazy. You're putting a lot of people in danger, and you're making it so people can't live by your law. There's not a police officer, a canine officer anywhere around here that doesn't have an e-collar on his dog when his dog is out working. Not one. Are you going to write him a ticket? Are you going to tell him he can't do it? I don't think so. The invisible fences, you're talking about an invisible fence with dogs that are constantly breaking through those with no owners around. Happens all the time. Here we're talking about a collar that's the people are using them and they're there with their dogs. To Oscar's point, take a 120-pound Rottweiler and a 100-pound woman. The dog's got 4 on the floor. The the woman has too. There's no way physically she can restrain that dog. The e-collar is the logical means, right? We've been using them for about 35 years, 40 years, as long as I've been in the business. To change the law without really doing the research, to me, is ludicrous, and you're really putting people in danger. And I just wanted to come up here and say that that's my feeling on the position. I've been doing this a long time, and I think you're doing the people who are really putting in hundreds and thousands of hours with their dogs, and that are responsible dog owners, I think you're basically cutting their legs out from under them. And I just don't see the reason for it. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, I think the next person is, where's Doug? Doug, and I can't, Doug, are you coming to talk about the?
No, I made the mistake you spoke of a minute ago.
Okay, I thought you might.
I'm
So-
here for the housing.
All right, so I'm gonna put you on the next, on the other, okay? And, I cannot read this next name at all. Balaja?
Yeah, neighborhood, do you wanna?
No, that's all, you're also here for the
Yeah.
neighborhood,
Thank you.
okay? We'll put you on the neighborhood. Okay, here's an easy one, Mark. You're here for the,
I will wait for the neighborhood session.
okay, very good. All right, so that completes public comments. Do you guys have any comments that you wanna, council comments? No? I've had one, okay, go ahead.
I appreciate y'all coming in, and all I can tell you is I'll look into it. The attorney's not here, so, we get recommendations, so, and we have to look into things, and so I'll look into it. That's all I can tell you is, but I appreciate, what you said, and I don't really, I don't pretend to be an expert on this, but I will look into it. That's all I can tell you. Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah, the three gentlemen, Taylor, Oscar, and Andy, would it be possible for you to give your contact information to the town clerk? She'll raise her hand before you leave, just so that way, when we do some follow-up, we'll be able to contact you. If there's questions that need to be asked, we can contact you as well. All right, but do appreciate you guys coming up and speaking. Thank you.
We have one question. Could we also find out what research was done before you changed this law, and who did that research, and where they got their information from?
Well, let me speak first, if I may.
Sure.
We can. And I appreciate you guys coming, but I'm gonna give you a different perspective of it, and I don't have a dog, and it's not very well trained, let's put it that way, but I love my dog, and I take it up to the school, and I let her run and play and all that good stuff. But I think what the problem here is there's no doubt what you guys do is maybe the best way, and I'm guessing the best way to train a dog. I'm talking about perception of other people. You walk through a neighborhood of 1,000 houses or 700 houses, and we live in the same neighborhood, I think, and respectfully so. But what I'm trying to say is I've seen many people walk without collars, any collar, without electronic or anything. So how do you know the difference? How would somebody's perception be when they see you walking without a collar? Again, it's probably the best way to train a dog. But how does someone in the neighborhood not get somewhat alarmed to think, well, this guy doesn't have this, because they don't know what you're doing. And that's just, and I'm not trying to be, different, but I would think that would be one of the biggest obstacles to it, is because other people don't know what you're doing. And that can be a scary situation, especially when you're talking about a 120-pound Rottweiler walking around. And again, somebody might scream and get their kids in or whatever, but I wouldn't argue the fact that which is the best way to train a dog. I'm just saying I do understand why people are alarmed to see people without a collar on a dog. Okay? Just 1 second. We're not supposed to do this, but go ahead.
Well, you're talking about training a dog. These dogs are obviously already trained, but would you be more comfortable with a Rottweiler on a piece of 550 cord? Piece of,
That's different. Yeah, I probably would be, and I don't, it doesn't really matter what everybody else thinks, but I think other people would feel better with a dog that's on a leash, whether it was 60 pounds or whether it was 80 pounds.
so on a piece of string is fine.
Yeah, that's just my opinion, and
How long does that piece of string have to be?
I have no idea. I have no idea, and I'm not here to argue, and I agree with somewhat of what you're saying. I do. It's probably the best way to train a dog. It's just a perception of it, and that's in my opinion, and we can get we can look at all the stuff that you bring in, and I don't even have a vote on it, so, it's just my opinion on it. Yes, Mr. Gay.
I know you really don't want to do this, but a simple solution, and it is a lot of perception of people, and some people unfortunately are terrified of dogs. I love dogs. But, there are flexible leashes that you could incorporate your electric collar and one of these flexible leashes that lets them run 20 feet or whatever. And so if you use both of them at one time and train them with your electric collar, then that's going to, hopefully make people feel more secure, and you get to use your electric collar to train your dog.
When you see somebody's dog with an invisible fence on their property and he charges the invisible fence, are we the feelings police now? I mean, that makes me nervous to see an invisible fence. Are you going to make all those people pull out those invisible fences and say, no, you have to have a visible fence now?
Okay, well, we're not here talking about invisible fences, but we've got to move on, and we're not, and it's not, stop. And I'm sorry, we'll talk after the meeting or whatever, if you want to. And get your information, because this is not really correct procedure, and I'm surprised that the attorney, Ms. Karen, has not stopped us.
I'm being nice today.
So anyway, thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
That brings us to law enforcement. Captain Hunky.
Best news from law enforcement is I have no news. We've had a great week, a great couple of weeks, and I'll have data and stuff for you at the next meeting, and I'll be at the next meeting. I'll be here early for budget stuff, so I'll be happy to talk about that next budget or next meeting. So, but again, no news is good news.
Thank you.
Thank
It
you,
is
guys.
good news, Captain Hunky. Thanks for all y'all do. Brings us to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor? Unanimous. All right. Public hearings. Ms. Deese. Ms. Deese is our planning director, so.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our first public hearing for tonight is CZ 2022-0132. It's the property located at 4123 Old Monroe Road. So this request is approximately 1¼ acres, requesting to go from SF1 single family to CZ General Business District. This is another request similar to ones that you've had over the last 6 months or so, and we anticipate seeing more of those, being that they're fronting a potential super street. The applicant for this request is Carolyn Chapman, and her intent for this rezoning is to allow general business uses and also a side reduction in the landscape buffer to allow for a driveway aisle to give her parking in the rear. Here's the parcel highlighted in yellow, just showing you the proximity to the intersection of Indian Trail Road and Old Monroe Road, and then also to the north, Old Monroe Road and Chestnut Lane. Here's a few photos of the existing site. This one's northwest along Old Monroe Road, southeast along Old Monroe Road, and then looking into the property from Old Monroe Road. The current zoning map is showing in beige the SF1, single-family low density. And then the future land use in this area. The future land use sets this out to be medium density. However, on its own, with the narrowness of the lot and the frontage on Old Monroe Road, We do feel that general business is appropriate, and you can see all of that light red that's mixed use too. So it's close enough to the intersection to play off of what's going on to the north of it. So a little bit more about the property and the request. Currently, there's a single-family home on the site. Again, this rezoning is to allow for the applicant's business to maintain an office there, but also could be potentially used to lease out for other general business district uses. If this request is approved, the future land use would automatically shift, so that beige would go to a red for commercial. And then before you, you've got the neighboring zoning districts and uses, which are single-family and general business. Here's a concept plan. It is a little bit small, but we do have a PDF file that we can break out and zoom in if there are particular questions. But basically what you'll see is the existing home here. You've got a pretty massive addition that they're going to add. And then here's that drive aisle and the parking in the back. So you can just see a very narrow lot. It's got a lot of depth, but not a lot of frontage at all. So transportation improvements will be dictated by NCDOT, of course, being it's on Old Monroe Road. The required off-street parking is spelled out on the slide above, but you can see that they have provided the 17 spaces as required. We held 2 community meetings on March the 1st, and the applicant and staff participated. 1 resident was in attendance, listened to the presentation, but did not have any questions for us. So in summary, this request is generally consistent with a comprehensive plan, meets several goals, including community engagement, land use and housing, and economic development. This is a reasonable request, and we suggest the following conditions. The first one is just kind of standard, that they will have to comply with other requirements of the UDO if not specifically addressed in this concept plan or conditions. The second one, we really want to make sure that that large addition makes sense with the existing structure and that it blends well and doesn't destroy the integrity of the existing structure. The third one is that reduction of the side lot line landscape buffer from 25 feet to 8 feet. And so generally, planners, we really like buffers. We like increasing buffers, not reducing them down. But we really do feel like that the trend in this area is going to continue with commercial, and that buffer would have automatically been reduced had the neighboring property been commercial. And then finally, we did eliminate some of the stronger, more harsh uses that the general business district allows, and those are on your screen for you for your review. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Following public comment and discussion, the action is before you. Thank you.
Randy, is the applicant present?
Yes, the applicant is present. They do not have a presentation, but they are here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so
Thank you.
They don't want to speak. And no one has signed up the sign-up sheet for public comments. Is there anyone here that wanted to speak? Okay, so can I get a motion to open public comments?
Motion to open public comments.
All in favor? Unanimous. Can I get one to close?
Motion to close public comments.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. That brings us to anybody questions or answers, or any questions for anybody? Nobody has a question? All right. So let's close this portion of the public hearing. No council deliberation. Can I get a motion to vote? I need a recommended motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional rezoning request CZ 2022-0132, Chapman Site Rezoning Ordinance Number 383.
Thank you. And all in favor? Unanimous. Can I get a recommended motion for the consistency findings?
I'll make a motion to adopt the statement of consistency as read into the record by staff for CZ 2022-0132 Chapman Site Rezoning.
All in favor? Unanimous. Very good. Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. Our second and final public hearing for the night is Terra Nova, CZ 2021-0202. This is property located at 6232 Old Monroe Road, and this is also for a conditional rezoning. This is a CZ request to rezone approximately 30.2 acres. It's going, potentially going from low-density single-family to CZ Single-Family 5, CZ Multifamily Residential, and CZ Neighborhood Business District. The applicant is Alpha Mega Construction Group, and the intent is to allow 42 single-family detached homes, 66 townhomes, and 1 commercial lot. Here you have the aerial map, shows the property in yellow. It abuts Brandon Oaks to the south and east, Sagecroft Homes to the west, townhomes to the west, and then is adjacent Old Monroe Road to Valley Estates. Here's some photos of the existing site looking southeast on Old Monroe Road. This is looking northeast along Old Monroe Road, and then looking into the property from Old Monroe Road. The current zoning of the property, SF1, is highlighted here in the beige. And you can see a variety of land uses surrounding it. The future land use sets this area out to be mixed use, and that's what you see in that light red color. And again, the basic details of this request include 42 single-family detached, 66 townhomes, and 1 small commercial lot on 30.2 acres. Future land use calls for it to be mixed use, and the proposal is CZSF5, CZMFR, and CZMBD. On your screen before you have the neighboring zoning districts and uses. You can see for the most part, it's single family, and then there is some neighborhood business district zoned property as well. Here's the concept plan for your review. The same thing with this one. We also have in a PDF if we need to zoom in for questions later. But this is the overall project with a single family kind of flanking the parcel line, and then the townhomes tucked in the middle. The small commercial lot is right here on the frontage of Old Monroe Road. This next slide is just a colored version of the concept plan that shows you the different phasing of the property. And as part of our review, planning staff had requested that the commercial be phased in earlier. As you know, we have a lot of projects that have been proposed as mixed use with really no intent to ever develop that commercial. And so one of our conditions was to phase that in. The developer did not agree to that. However, they did offer a compromise, and we'll go through that in the conditions here in just a moment. We also shared the concern with the developer that the commercial parcel was such a small percentage for it to be considered mixed use. Here's several slides showing the product that they intend to build. This last one is the commercial parcel. So Union County Public Works has confirmed that water and sewer is accessible to the site. However, capacity is an issue. UDO section 1110.090 street and sidewalk improvements includes under section C, access and subdivision lots, a requirement for 2 points of access for the projects that are greater than 50 units. Although the proposed plan has 2 points of access, it does stem from the same spine road, so that caused some of the planning staff's concern and felt that it didn't meet the intent of the code. However, we were outranked, so to speak. The Union County Fire Marshal did review this. His focus was more on the initial road configuration and the width of the roads, and so he did not have any negative comments for this concept plan. The developer will have to meet all of Town of Indian Trail and NCDOT requirements with respect to transportation improvements. You can see the parking regulations as it applies to the different land uses spelled out on the screen. Overall, this project exceeds the parking requirements for the residential phases, and the commercial parking would be determined during site plan review, and it's dependent upon the actual square footage and the land use at the time. We also held 2 community meetings on March the 7th. We had 10 citizens participate, and the comments included stormwater, flooding, drainage, traffic and safety, water pressure and sewer availability, landscape buffers, trees, and berms. So to summarize, this request is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan and promotes the following goals: land use and housing, parks and recreation, open space, and natural environment. This is a reasonable request, and staff has the following conditions. So be patient with me, there's a lot. Okay, so the first is the boilerplate to comply with the UDO. So if it's not listed here, they've got to meet the code. The architecture, that just requires that even though they've submitted samples to us, it still has to go through the SID review and it has to meet our design standards. We want to hold that single-family density at 2.77 units to the acre. There is a reduction in the lot area per unit for the single family. So SF5 is 8,000 square feet. We're reducing it down to 6,250. There's a reduction of the lot width for single family. There's the reduction of single family building setbacks from the rear and the interior side. We want to hold the density for the multifamily at 11.52 units to the acre. There's a reduction for the minimum lot size from the 3,350 to 2,574. Reduction of setbacks as well from front, rear, interior side, and corner. We've listed the amenities that the developer has agreed to. You can see those on the screen under number 10. Also, a 10-foot wide multi-use path to be installed. There's a 25-foot perimeter undisturbed landscape buffer, and we've got additional comments, but basically the intent of that is that sometimes there can be some real scrub trees that just don't provide a good buffer and don't look visually appealing, so we want to make sure that they're going to supplement that if that becomes the case. Opaque screening to include fencing and landscaping around the BMP areas. And I feel like the most important is number 14, is that access for lots 15, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 36. So these folks that have access easements will still be able to maintain access to their property. Construction and connection of Culpeper Creek Way extension from Terra Nova to the Sagecroft Townhome development. If you remember, this is the project that does give us access to our landlocked parcel. And then we've eliminated, or we've narrowed it down to just the permissible uses on this for the commercial parcel. So it's fairly limited to very light neighborhood business, so that a good commercial use that would fit with the neighborhood but not have a harsh impact on the single family that's close by. We also want the commercial to be stubbed out, ready to go. This was part of the developer's compromise on that phasing plan, 17 and 18. They have said no more than 75% of the homes in the community will receive a CO until the developer has permits in hand for the construction of the commercial portion. So that 17 and 18 together was the developer's compromise. And I would like to inform Town Council that during the planning board process, staff was made aware of adjacent neighbor with a language barrier. Josue Pinay is a member of the planning department. He was kind enough to join us tonight, and he will be available for translation services if needed. In the event that this is needed, I would kindly ask you to provide additional time, perhaps doubling the time, to allow for this translation. And following public comment and discussion, you have the action before you. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. So I'm assuming that the applicant, this is the applicant presentation that Josue is going to come up? No.
No, it's a public comment.
Oh, public comments. Okay,
Yes.
so do we have an applicant for?
We do have an applicant present, and they have a presentation as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor. Evening, council members. Thanks for allowing us the time to present this property and project to you tonight. And also just want to thank Brandy and her staff for the communication in the process as we've gone through. We do have a brief slideshow that'll walk you through most of the same slides, so I won't be too redundant, but a lot of it is imagery. Do we have the fly-through as well? Okay. I think that helps paint the picture. So I'll glance over some of the slides here just so you don't see them twice. And certainly have some information to share with you in addition to Brandy's great presentation, and then I'll be open to, of course, any questions that you might have. So again, you see the aerial here. The main thing I think that is important about this slide is that you can see us outlined in the red there. You know, the owner has owned this property for 6 years. And when they bought it, the intention was to develop it, just like some other folks had the same intentions to in the past. The idea with this, though, is the developer, the owner, wanted to be patient. They didn't want to just go in and slam a buy right neighborhood in and just put up a bunch of homes and, you know, move on to the next one. This was a patient play, and they owned it outright since the beginning, and the purpose for that is to come in and do the right thing. They worked with the planning staff when they first bought it, and from that time to now, they worked with your preceding or your prior council, and now it's translated into you folks to get a good look at tonight. I think that's important to say that for a number of reasons, but number one is they were patient and they want to do the right thing with this. They're trying to integrate this into the community. They're members of this community. They have 4 businesses in Indian Trail. They have 13 employees that live and pay taxes in Indian Trail. They have 40 employees that live and pay taxes in Union County. And all those are important because they're part of this fabric of the society. They're very much a big part of the integrity of what this community wants to bring to the town of Indian Trail. So with that, we can move to the next slide. I guess I can drive, can I? Thank you. Oop. So you've seen the zoning requests, and those are the different uses. I'll pop through a couple of these. This is just a color version, and I'll move to the next one because it shows a couple more highlights here. So what this shows is the most important, I think, on this entire slide is based on everything else that you've heard tonight. We had 10 members of the community, which was great turnout, in my opinion, for the folks from Brandon Oaks that on our community meetings. Those 10 folks had some great questions. They were well thought out. They were well presented. They're very clearly an organized group and smart. They've done this before. The questions that came up were just as Brandy clearly provided on the screen. You had storm drainage. You had buffer issues and questions. You had, hey, how is the stream that runs through my property into your property going to be saved and protected? How are the people that are downstream going to be saved from flooding and water issues? How are we going to be protected from privacy and views from your community into ours? Those are all great questions, very normal questions. So we answered each one of those questions accordingly. One of the questions was about traffic. I think two of the folks that stood up that signed in were about traffic. But the most important information is where I have the highlighted green 25-foot vegetative buffer. Everybody that spoke up on that community meeting lived in one of those lots, unless I'm mistaken. Either on, and forgive me if I say it wrong, on Datal Lane and on Fripp Lane. Everybody that spoke up was on one of those lots, and their questions were mostly redundant in the form of storm drainage, fence or privacy, protection, those kind of things. Great questions, but it's notable that they were all right there. The only ones that spoke up from the entire community of thousands of homes, thousands, as we know, the only ones that spoke up were the ones that share a property line. And so, to answer that question, and I think in the planning board, Tyler did a great job, but I'll be simple about it. That 25-foot vegetative buffer is not just a space. It's 25 feet of space, of measurement, but it's also 25 feet of vegetative buffer, which is a standard. There's a written ordinance and a standard that we have to meet. That, to Brandy's point, if there is a scraggly little pine or a void in that space is filled with a designed landscaping plan. It's not just whatever tree is there is there. That's an important thing to protect these folks that are worried about that, and we intend to do that. When Brandon Oaks was developed, built decades ago, those standards didn't exist. Their property line is their property line. There's overhead power lines there. There's voids and vacancies that you can see through completely, transparent. So this will help them. This is going to give them a great buffer, a great screen, and a great protection to hopefully solve at least that one concern that they had. A couple things that the developer has done here with the help of their engineer is to exceed what the normal requirements are going to be. And I'll briefly hit these, and we can move through. But namely here, as we go through, the road width normally on design standard is 22 feet wide. That's 2 traffic lanes in and out. We've expanded to 28 feet, and I'll tell you why in a second. The open space requirement on a site like this is 25 feet, or I'm sorry, 25% of the entire site is open space. We've exceeded that by 11% up to 36%, which is actually 3.3 acres of a site on a 30-acre site. On the townhome section, similarly, the driveways were also exceeded. Normally you need 22 feet there, which will safely park cars. We've exceeded that by 3 feet and gone to 25 feet. The road widths, including the on-street parking, have now expanded to 35 feet wide. And the open space requirement, again, is 11% in excess. What's important about the driveway depth is, you know, we heard concerns from public safety, we heard concerns from the fire marshal, who had no comments on the plans because we met and dealt with those questions up in advance. Everybody knows that when 2 people park in your neighborhood across from each other, you can't get through those cars. And no matter how many times we walk out and say, hey, would you please mind moving your car? It happens. Birthday parties, whatever it is. People just don't pay attention. And so the fire marshal and public works department, their concerns were, hey, look, how many mirrors do we have to knock off these cars, right? And we're going to do it. If I'm a fire truck, I'm getting to that guy to save his life, right? If I'm going to put that fire out. If I'm a garbage collector, I've got to get through and do my job. Sorry you parked like an idiot, you know? We listen to those concerns, and we widen those roads with ample space now to allow that traffic in and out. To Brandy's point, this site was supposed to have 2 access points by design, by regulation, by ordinance in a normal environment. It's a very unique site. It's very necked down in a lot of areas, and to accommodate that, we've tried to be as creative as we could by adding the additional width, additional space for public safety and travel throughout that entire community. You've seen the elevations here. I'll just point out that each one of these you see, you're going to see varying materials. You're going to see porches that rocking chairs actually fit on. You can actually sit and enjoy. It's not just a 3-foot stoop. Very well thought out with the color palettes and diversity as you drive down the road. The townhome would be something like this, a similar thing with the varying materials and elevations. And again, this is the commercial. It's got this is one example of what it could be. It's got a very residential look to it, if you will, but it could be any number of things. To point out one thing on the commercial use as well, that limited commercial use, the applicant came through in the entire design process with planning board and planning staff. The entire design process was, we want to make sure you're going to do this. We want to make sure we know what this is going to be, and so we went through those concessions and agreed that, you know what, we can't do it first thing because it's just not economically feasible to build a commercial use where there's not enough rooftops yet. And so I think the concession of let's do the majority of the work up front, let's get it ready, and then when it's time, when those rooftops are there, then let's move forward. And I think that's a good concession. We also came through and said, look, there's an entire list of permissible uses should this be rezoned to commercial. It's an entire list of things that are great commercial uses. Not a lot of them are a good fit for a residential neighborhood and a family community. And so we cut a lot of those. And we said, look, we're not going to, we'll concede to that and say, look, let's not have those uses available. They're great businesses other places. But we narrowed that list down to a very family-friendly, very community-friendly list of permissible uses to help protect the community of which the developer, the applicant, is a big part of. So I'll reserve the questions unless there are any at this point, and I'll do the fly-through, unless
Do we have any questions? I don't think we have any questions. So I think that will bring us to public comments.
Well, we do the additional,
Oh, you got more?
yes, sir.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
I
sir.
thought you were
apologize.
done.
There's a fly-through, it's a video that,
I
so
got
the
you.
intention
I'm
of this
sorry, I
video.
thought you were finished.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. Once I wrap the video, then we'll come back and I'll make
Okay.
sure there's no additional questions.
My bad, my bad. Go ahead.
Understood. So, do I push play on this? Oh, there you go. So I'll let you kind of, just watch through as we go. What this basically is a vision of what this community will be when it's built out. When it's mature, the trees are grown, there's family living here, there's traffic, and there's people in a thriving community, and you see it as it comes to life. So as it flies in, you're entering in off of Old Monroe Road. There's, again, that look at the potential commercial and the parking available for that. And again, a lot of those uses you should be in your report, but there's any number of things there. Here's the dog park. It'll be surrounded by a fence. A number of components will be added to that. It won't just be sand traps, but there'll be components as we go through the design on that. Now, as we pull through a little further into the community, you'll see, of course, these community sidewalks going all the way throughout the community, along with that 10-foot pedestrian multi-use path that will front Old Monroe Road as well. So here's a great look at those large porches on the single-family product. A little bit further into the site, there's the family playground. Of course, vegetation, there's trees. We integrated this into the center of the site, and you would see that on the site plan there. You'd see that we moved it to the center, so it's a little bit further away from the neighbors, from the surrounding communities. Helps protect, again, we're trying to do the best we can to be a good new neighbor and bring in a little bit more thoughtfulness to it. Another look at a few more single-family homes. Again, look at those deep driveways. You can walk your dog. Nobody's tailgates hanging over the sidewalk. People aren't parking in the street because there's ample parking. By the way, there's 97 extra parking spaces in this community to keep people off the road. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, but we're holding his nose. So around the ponds on the site, there's some, and one of the conditions is to put these gravel trails around the ponds, make them nice walking features. Of course, there's some natural vegetation in place that will be cleaned up. These ponds now that are on site, not very animal friendly. They are what they are. They're natural ponds, but they're not being maintained. And one of the beauties of a pond that becomes enhanced and maintained in a community is that vegetation now is cleaned up. You've got a thriving habitat for a lot more wildlife, and that's what we intend it to be. So we're now pulling into the townhomes. So you'll see here, these are all, of course, alley-loaded. They're rear-loaded townhomes. The fronts are what you see there with walk-ups and sidewalks there. Pulling into this road, you see to the right, the cutout is where the on-street parking is. That's that extra width, so those cars can line those roads and still have great travel through there. Another pond with the gravel walks around. One thing to note too, as we're looking at the ponds, is these are stormwater management ponds. And these ponds are intended to control the flow of water and intended to control the quality of water by ordinance, which is a huge importance. And I think that was what one of the concerns was from at least a couple of the community questions, is that, hey, how are you going to control that water that leaves the site? Well, we're managing everybody's water from upstream. It's coming through our site. We're managing that, collecting it, and it can't leave the site with any more than what we had to begin with. So as we exit here, we're going through a little bit more of the single family, and thanks for bearing with the video here. I think hopefully it gives you a good vision of what this could be, where the families could be living, pulling out through where the commercial is, and back out onto Old Monroe Road, to where the super street should be a big part of. By the time this is all built out, it should be a very big part of the entire integration for everybody to come in together. One more overview. as we walk off into the sunset there. I think you get the idea. I think that's pretty cool technology, gives us a good vision, and hopefully you feel like it was worth your while to see that. I will now, if there are any questions, I'll open the floor to that, and thanks for bearing with us on that. I'll leave with before I do open with one question is, I think all of you have a different opinion of what this site could be, what any development could be, and I'd definitely love to hear with open ears what your vision of this site would be, if not this. Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. When you started speaking, you talked about that the applicant held onto the property for a while. They have the ability to do by right building, right? Where the town doesn't get into dictate some of the material quality and so forth. What is the by right building that can be done on this site based on the current zoning? And I'm just gonna confirm that with Brandy. Brandy, this is in Indian Trail proper, right?
Correct.
All right. So, okay, so what would that equate to in terms of from a housing unit that you could go in there and build without getting the council's approval for the rezoning?
Okay, thank you. Good question. So right now we're SF1, single family one. That's a 20,000 square foot lot. That's 2.2 homes, 2.2 units to the acre. Okay, so 30.2 acres of land. That's, you're at about 66 homes, okay, by right. So the developer could come in and do 66 homes by right. You saw on the screen there were 66 townhomes and 42 single-family homes as what's proposed. The number just happens to be the same with the 66. So what you see there is that's 42 more homes that we're requesting to do versus the 66 that is allowed by right. I think what's important, and I thank you for asking the question, is what's important about that is by right, like, you know, kind of the Old West, right? They can come in, there's rules and regulations, and I don't want to overstep the simplification of that, but by right is by right. There would be no buffers. There would be no Culpeper Creek Lane Road as a condition to connect to the town's property or to the Sagecroft townhomes. There would be no, a number of things by right. And just 66 homes. It's 42 more homes and families that could be coming in paying taxes, feeding the commercial businesses, adding to everything. 66 homes by right with no buffers, no road widening, no second access, maybe, I need to clarify that. No HOA, okay? So one of the questions that came up on the community meeting was, how are you gonna protect property taxes? What price point are these houses gonna be? How are you gonna save my property value? Okay, that's a great question. I think we all have that question, right? HOAs do a big part of that. I think we all would agree if we live in a neighborhood with an HOA, we don't always like the HOA, but they keep our property values up, and they keep us making our yard look good, and they keep us keeping our mailboxes painted and the architectural standards looking good. No HOA means no protection on a lot of things. There's a number of things that I think if we start to go down to by right, these are 20,000 square foot lots. We could do well in septic and build tomorrow, essentially. 66 homes. We don't have to wait for sewer. With the rezoning request, there's patience involved to do the right thing, and you get a road to your property that the town owns and wants to use, I believe, a road for connectivity, which meets one of the vision goals, another goal that wasn't pointed out. One of the vision goals was to have connectivity between villages. This achieves that. Public safety would not be, I would likely imagine, they would not be as happy if these roads weren't wide like we proposed them by right. If it's by right, do a 22-foot road in and out, here you go. So I don't mean to belabor the question. I appreciate you bringing it up. There's a number of conditions that we agreed to in that list that was presented, and I think those were purposeful. I think they were done with integrity by both the town and by the developer.
Okay.
I know that you said that by right you could do 66 houses and put septic tank. Have you done perk test on the property?
No, that's a good question. That's an easy math answer. You're right. And hopefully so. but you don't know. But the goal would be to do that, to achieve that.
Yeah, the
And
soil
then-
here is not very advantageous to septic tanks.
We don't know either way. We haven't seen that. We haven't done that test yet. We would do that as a next step, and quite honestly, we'd rather not. You know, I think we'd rather be a part of the fabric and part of the approved community. You know, we look back at folks like Brandon Oaks and Sagecroft, and these are great communities, right? I think Brandon Oaks is the poster child for a big, huge, great, successful community. I think they're great. They have all the things that we want. Approval, HOA, lots of people that want to live there. We just want 108 people. We don't want 1,000 people. We don't want 2,000 people. We want 108 people, 108 families to come and be a part of this. And we want to provide a commercial use that's going to be good, whatever that's going to be, a coffee shop, a donut place, a whatever, you know, a couple of offices. It doesn't matter. It's providing with good thought and good intention and integrity what would be a good fit for the community.
I have some questions for Brandy, really. So I don't know if,
Randy, would you step up
yeah,
there?
Thank you for your time, council members.
thank you. Randy, if you can just expand a bit on, I think when you did the conditions, I think you went up to 18, and you talked about number 14 in terms of lots 15, 20, 21, 22, 23, and also condition number 15. Can you expand on that a little bit, please, if you don't mind?
Sure, so let me see if I can get back to, so condition 14, all of these parcels currently are accessing via an easement. And so naturally, we want to maintain that. So essentially, they will get a new connection off of the Spine Road. That's what that condition will ensure.
When you say all of these, you're talking about these 5 lots are part of this current proposal.
Those are separate parcels owned by other folks that live there, but just happen to access via the Terra Nova parcels. So we're just ensuring, and by law, they would have access anyways, but we're just making sure that it's very, very clear that those homes, those folks that are existing homes, not a part of the parcels of Terra Nova, will still be able to access their property and get to their house.
All right. What about number 15?
All right, let's look at number 15. So number 15, that's the Culpeper Creek Way is the road that runs in front of Sagecroft currently, and that's extending over the floodplain. So that's their secondary point of access, even though it's not a true access. It is an attempt to try and meet that requirement. And I can pull up the site plan to show you. So you've got Sagecroft Townhomes right here. This is Culpeper that they've stubbed out, and they'll be required to cross the floodplain to connect these two communities, but also give us second access out if something were to occur here.
And that is adjacent to the town-owned property, right? That is going to go across the town-owned property?
Correct. It'll cross in front of the town-owned property.
Okay. That's all I have, Brandy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? I have one, Brandy. Hold-
Sure.
If you don't mind. That was 66 homes that were planned, or are zoned for 66 homes.
By right, yes.
By right, okay. Were they townhomes or just regular, they were single they were single
So
family?
SF1 is single-family detached. Townhomes are classified as multifamily, so it would require rezoning if they were going to do 66 townhomes.
Right, so it was for single-family homes, though,
Right,
correct?
correct.
Okay. Speak to us a little bit about buffers, because even though you go in there on a by right, you still have buffers. I mean, you can't just go in and pretty
Maybe.
much well do as you please, or can you?
Sometimes. So they've been a little strategic in their plan, if you'll notice, a little bit unique that they have the single family on the edges and the multifamily tucked in. That allows them to reduce that buffer a little bit. But to your point, single family to single family per the code requires zero buffer, right? Because the buffers are based on intensity of land use. And if you're the same intensity, then there is no buffer. Now, largely in Indian Trail, you're going to need some sort of rezoning for a subdivision. And we typically see anywhere from 25 to 50-foot buffers. Now, if the townhomes were adjacent to the single family, then there would be a required buffer there because of the difference in uses from single family to multifamily.
If you had 66 homes in there, though, and they say they don't require buffers, it would still be harder to sell a house, one of the 66 houses, if you were talking about no buffers, if you're just.
Looking in somebody's
It's not
backyard.
gonna be an easy sale if you don't do something that's attractive.
Right. If they developed it with just the townhomes, they would be required to still do a 25-foot buffer.
I got you, okay.
Brandon Oaks isn't under the existing code. They were a county developed and then annexed into the town back in the 90s. So I don't think that's a good comparison. But
If you want to come up and speak in the.
Didn't mean to speak out of turn, I'm sorry, Brandon. Just to answer the question, you're speculating that we wouldn't be able to sell homes with no buffers, but Brandon Oaks does not have buffers.
I didn't say you couldn't sell it.
You said it'd be difficult.
I said it would be more difficult if you didn't have something pretty there or for your sake.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I agree. I think if we look at it unbiased, as a group, I think we would understand that we're protecting the neighbors by doing this, by adding buffers, and not only just buffers. I mean, buffer's a word. This is an enhanced landscape design that would be required and held to versus, whatever might be required by
Okay.
by
That
buffer.
answers the question. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
A question.
Go ahead.
Has this already been approved, the 66 homes, project for that? I just know it's designated for single-family.
right, we're just speaking of the by right, what they could submit for site. They could no, it wouldn't come before town council. It would be staff administratively handled through site plan review.
Thank you, Brandy. Okay, that brings us up to the public comments. Can I get a motion to open up public comments?
Motion to open public comments.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. I don't know if it's Mr. and Mrs. Santos or Josue. This is a first, by the way. The first time I've ever seen this in 11 years where we have an interpreter. So, great. Very good.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Azucena Santos.
Good afternoon, my name is Azucena Santos.
Me gustaría expresar mi desaprobación con el proyecto Terra Nova e insto a este consejo a que no apruebe este proyecto. Estamos opuestos a este proyecto debido al impacto negativo a nuestras propiedades y nuestro estilo de vida.
I would like to express my disapproval of the Terra Nova project and urge this council not to approve this project. We're opposed to this project because of the negative impact on our properties and our lifestyle.
Nuestra preocupación primordial es el impacto a nuestra propiedad de las aguas pluviales generadas por muchos acres de superficie impermeable y que fluirán hacia el estanque y arroyo que está enseguida de nuestra propiedad.
Our concern is the impact on our property for stormwater generated by many acres of impervious surface and flowing into the pond and creek that are adjacent to our property.
Durante una tormenta fuerte, las aguas inundarán mi propiedad, causándonos mucha inconveniencia y daños.
During a severe storm, the waters will flood my property, causing us much inconvenience and damage.
Otra preocupación es el desafío de acceso libre y seguro a nuestros hogares durante la construcción.
Another concern is the challenge of open and safe access to our home during construction.
Será imposible para el desarrollador garantizarnos acceso libre durante la instalación de infraestructura, la instalación de la carretera y la constante entrada y salida de vehículos de construcción.
It will be impossible for the developer to guarantee us open access during the installation of infrastructure, the construction of the road, and the constant entry and exit of construction vehicles.
Nuestros vehículos tendrán que navegar por zona de construcción que pueden ser arriesgados para vehículos residenciales.
Our vehicles will need to drive through a construction zone, which can be risky for residential vehicles.
Además, el acceso de servicios de entrega como Amazon se verán interrumpidos. El desarrollador no ha presentado a los dueños existentes ningún tipo de plan para resolver esta preocupación.
In addition, access to delivery services such as Amazon will be disrupted. The developer has not presented the existing owners with any kind of plan to resolve this concern.
Por último, mi familia y yo seleccionamos nuestro hogar actual debido a su densidad residencial y nos preocupa que este proyecto de alta densidad cambiará nuestro estilo de vida hasta el punto de causarnos reubicarnos.
Finally, my family and I selected our current home because of its residential density, and we're concerned that this high-density project will change our lifestyle to the point of causing us to relocate.
Con solamente un punto de salida hacia Old Monroe Road, experimentaremos altos niveles de tráfico debido a los aproximadamente 2 vehículos por cada hogar, más los autobuses escolares.
With only one exit point to Old Monroe Road, we will experience high levels of traffic due to the approximately 2 vehicles per household, not to mention school buses.
Le pido este consejo a que considere los intereses de los residentes actuales de Indian Trail y niegue el permiso a este proyecto. Gracias por su atención.
I ask this council to consider the interests of the current residents of Indian Trail and deny this project. Thank you for your attention.
Gracias. Is it Mark Miller?
Sure.
Come on up, Mark.
Thank you. Let me grab my notes here. So I'd like to thank the council for allowing me and the members of the Brandon Oaks community here to provide some feedback on CZ 2021-0202. And the presentation you gave was a good presentation. I enjoyed it. I like seeing the full scope of the project. Inherently, if something's got to go behind my house, the man has a decent plan. Felt a little threatening that they could just come in and bang this, that, or other out without having this kind of forum. So I didn't like that part of the presentation. But if something's got to go back there, that's decent. I don't really want it, but if it has to happen, I would rather happen that than the threatening part of it where we can just go back there and plop whatever we want in my backyard. So I just wanted to say that first and foremost. I've got 10 folks from the Brandon Oaks homeowners back here present. They also pay taxes. They're also your electorate. They also have a vested interest in privacy and in the success and longevity of Brandon Oaks, which I think we all agree is a pretty decent community within Indian Trail. I don't really support the growth of the proposed neighborhood. I don't believe that my aforementioned neighbors do either. But like I said, if I got to take the worst of the evils, his deal's a better deal than the force-fed deal that was referenced. I do have the following concerns. You know, I don't think the percentages exonerate the community's desire not to develop, all right? It's nice that the police can come down the road and, you know, if people are foolish enough to park on both sides of the road, which I don't like, which I don't do, I don't think that reasoning of bad behavior should justify the fire marshal saying I have no comment on the matter. They should enforce the rule and allow the fire trucks to flow accordingly. Number two, I don't think that super street's going to accommodate all the traffic spilling out of one hole onto Monroe Road. I drive to work every morning at 6 or 7 o'clock, and you guys all know, coming up to 485, it's generally backed up from 485 to that spill spot we're talking about. Safety and fire, I kind of talked about. I don't think the abdication of that parking enforcement is a reason to justify no comment on behalf of the fire marshal. I also don't have a kid in Sun Valley School. I pulled him out of Sun Valley School and I sent him over to Metrolina Christian. And I would want to know, can this additional growth be accommodated by Sun Valley? I don't have any knowledge of that, but it's a valid discussion. And then I also think that there is very limited greenway still existing in Indian Trail. I moved here from New York, so I'm a Yankee by birth, and I know what traffic is and I know what overpopulation is. It's nice to have a little greenway in my backyard. It's nice to have a little bit of privacy, and it's nice to have a little bit of wildlife back there. So I appreciate your guys' time, and that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Yep.
Michael Falconberry.
As I said during the planning board meeting, you only have 2 exits within 100 feet of each other. It's not very safety conscious. Plus, if they have the traffic to go through another neighborhood, a good example of that not working now is Taylor Glen and Brandon Oaks. They cut through. That's not fair to those people in Sagecroft to have extra cars coming through there. Also, it was mentioned about the 25-foot buffer of vegetation. I've never known vegetation to stop somebody from getting your backyard. We had the same issue, Piggott Circle, with a theater complex. Yeah, minimum requirement is 25-foot buffer of vegetation. And you see, you don't just have vegetation. It can be changed. But they use the by right argument. This was proposed 8 years ago. 8 years ago. If they want to do by right, why haven't they already done it? Why come to the motions that come through the town planning board, town staff, and the council if they could already have this done? Think about that. If it's by right, why do we need council? Why do we need a planning board? If we can do what we want to do and shove it down our throats, and we still complain about the traffic, more houses, and we have more need for law enforcement, then why are you there? Don't listen to threats and bullying. Do your job. If they so be it, if it happens, it's called litigation. That's how it works. We had to do it against the theater complex to threaten it. So keep that in mind. Keep your thinking caps on. Don't listen to threats. Thank you.
Doug Presley.
Thank you, Council. My name is Doug Presley. I live at 6308 Old Monroe Road. I'm directly across from Pickett Circle. I'm between Brandon Oaks and Pickett Circle, and I am about to have a lot of new neighbors. I didn't really come to object to the new neighborhood. Curiosity as much as anything else. I did not know exactly what was going to happen. But I've been hit twice with 3 or 4 close calls just trying to get in and out of my driveway. I've been getting letters from the DOT for 12 or 15 years saying the 4-lane is coming, but it ain't here yet. And that is going to be an extraordinary amount of traffic on that road. It's already at 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, it is solidly backed up from Sun Valley High School, past my house, down the valley to the new neighborhood that's already down there. And I would ask you to please consider, we're not going to stop this neighborhood, but please consider reducing the density a little bit, especially of the townhomes. This is just going to be an enormous burden on a road that is already overwhelmed. And while we're at it, you might put a buffer between this and my property and my sister's, Wanda McGee. I used to live in the country, but I sure don't anymore. But mostly this traffic is becoming unbearable, absolutely unbearable. You look left, you look right, there's traffic everywhere. You can't even get out of your driveway. I work at Charlotte Pipe, okay, Charlotte Pipe. It's 2.2 miles from my driveway. The ride used to be 3 minutes. It's now 17. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you state your full name when you come up?
For the record, it's Balaji Srinivasan.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor, for a nice introduction. Thank you, Doug, for he already summed up what I was going to say. The traffic, I don't need to say. I go to the office uptown. It's like 15, 40 minutes just getting into the Matthews itself to take the park and ride. So I don't need to tell. I'm not going to be ready. Couple of things which I wanted to highlight is the fire safety concerns, right? One is multifamily. They're putting a lot of, like as the code Brandy just mentioned out, right? 30 acres, you're building close to 66 plus 4,200 families, 102 families in a 30-acre lot. That's a lot of families, and especially fire safety concern. As you know, statistically, multifamily houses have more fire accidents than a single family. The chance of spreading in a multifamily is more. Think about it for a minute, right? Apartments, you get more fire happening in the apartments than in a single family. And the people who are impacted are also more in a single family, multifamily houses. Leave it there. Flooding. I live in the back of the Fripp Lane in Brandon Oaks, and there's a storm drain next to me. Right now, it's also already with the recent rain, it's flooding. So add to the new project that's in a elevated, so it's all the water is going to come rushing back into the Fripp Lane and all that stuff. So that's a major concern. And Brandy talked about that's a flooding. It's not been categorized. That's another thing. As Mark mentioned out, overcrowding. It's already Sun Valley is full. We don't need to stay that. So a lot of things, sewer connection, water connection, all those challenges are there, right? Those are things which we need to consider, and I wish the town votes in rejecting this. And also I will leave with another suggestion instead of just, hey, not against it. Why don't we convert that into a greenway or a walking trail or something like that? With Brandon Oaks next to it, a lot of people will enjoy that. You have a greenway right now, Crooked Creek, similar to here. You can as well convert it over there also. That's a good idea. A lot of people will enjoy. Just leaving a thought for you. And wildlife, there's existing, I've seen it, a couple of deers, falcons, you name it, they are there. You can avail that. That's already, you don't need to do anything. The traffic, you can get no traffic concerns. People will enjoy, have a good space. Nice air quality will improve. Thank you again, once again. I would like to town to consider and reject this Terra Nova project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Miller?
I already went.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so that wraps up, I hadn't left it, okay.
I didn't see the form. Can I have a moment to say something?
You come on up. Anthony.
Yes.
Come up.
Council members, thank you for giving me a moment. I am the president of Brandon Oaks HOA, and I'd just like to say that I have received a significant amount of communication opposing this project. I'm not going to go through every item that everybody has said already, but they're all the same. Capacity, capacity, capacity. And as their representative, I'd just like to say that they are against it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if we could get the president to sign in for the public comment.
Okay, if we'll do that. Yes, sir? Sure, come up. If you can, but go ahead, just state your name when you come up.
My name is Vinod Umar. I live right behind on the Fripp Lane. And I saw the plans and I spoke to during the last meeting also regarding the berms and the greenway and everything. But what I see today here is that there is a single point of entry in such a hugely, densely constructed property. What is being proposed, right? Like 108 homes with a single point of entry, and that probably adds a lot of fire and concerns. We living right next to it, it will probably spill over to our houses also. And also I don't want to repeat everybody's concern regarding the traffic and additional concerns on the sewer and the water. And Sun Valley is already, I saw the reports, it's like 87% full. And with Sagecraft and this additional, I don't know where our students will go. My kids will go in the future. My grandkids, kids and grandkids. So I think the schools are already full. The town needs to think, right, town council, where the overflow of the students will go. Whether we need to go to Weddington or Marvin or where. Because already it's all these schools are full. So I like to, the town council to consider, right, having a multi-family homes is probably not the right behind our backyards. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's close this portion of the public hearings. Can I get, do I have any more questions, by the way? Anybody? Can I get a motion to close?
Motion to close public comments.
Close. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Council, are you done with all your questions? No deliberation. I do have one question for Brandy. What does this bring it up density-wise? It goes from a low density to what?
Okay, SF1 to an SF5. That's traditionally 8,000 square feet, but if you remember in the conditions, we did reduce that down for the multifamily and for the single family. So SF5, but the density is going to remain at 2.77 for single family, and then 11.52 for multifamily.
So what does that make the whole area? Did you say 5? Would you consider, is it now considered high density?
The multifamily would be high density. I would not consider the single family portion of it high density at all.
And at all, would it be high density?
It would be absolutely per our code, yes, it would be high
All right,
density.
that's just my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yes.
Can I
Todd?
say something before we
Sure.
vote? Sure, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming in. I didn't have any questions because whether you know it or not is, we get the minutes from the planning board meeting. I know some of you that spoke at the planning board spoke here today. And, I just wanted to thank you for coming in. I've kind of already read the comments, went through this, and at this point, I just kind of hearing the same thing the planning board did. So I think we got, is that Larry Dukes from the planning board here? There's a chairman back there, a green shirt, so he's been identified. But anyway, they do a good job, and I just, from the presentation, everything's nice, but I'm at this point, I'm agreeing with what the planning board decided on this. So anyway, that's all I had to say. I want to thank everybody for doing that.
If we have no more questions.
Pardon the interruption. Understood. There were some other gentlemen that spoke. I just wanted to make sure we had a chance to answer the questions or the points of the.
Karen? I'm sorry, I can't.
It would be council's discretion, but the public hearing is closed, and so generally you would not take additional information after the close of the hearing.
Sorry. All right, yes, Mr. McIntyre.
Just one comment. It's directed to the lady who spoke first. Just to say to her, gracias por hablar esta noche. Gracias a Jose a traducir. All right, just saying thank you for speaking tonight.
Thank you, Marcus. I did, if Anthony, the last two, if you'll sign the sign-in sheet. You got it? You got it? Okay, we got it. All right, so can I get a motion and a vote? Someone want to give me a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
On CZ 2021-0202 Terra Nova subdivision, ordinance number, I'm assuming I have to say that, 384. I would make a motion to deny.
Okay, all in favor to deny, raise your hand. Unanimous. On the consistency statement, would somebody like to make a motion? Do we need?
You will need a statement to supporting the denial.
It's right here. You'll make it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
I make a motion to deny the statement of consisting for CZ 2022-0202 Terra Nova rezoning based on the Town of Indian Trails Comprehensive Plan designation of mixed use for this property. and favor to meet the definition of mixed-use development according to Chapter 680 of the Unified Develop Ordinance.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate the presentation, and I appreciate the comments from everybody. Thank you. All right. Karen?
No, it's a denial of the conditional zoning request.
Labeled as a mixed use, I just want to make sure we clarify what that is. This was
No,
not a
it,
mixed use
it,
rezoning.
the land use plan calls for mixed use in the area, and your plan did not meet the definition of mixed use.
Well,
No, the board's moved, you can take next steps as appropriate.
Okay.
mixed club uses in the planning presentation as well, not a mixed use.
All right, that brings us to old business. ARPA update, Mr. McLean.
Good evening. Y'all only get to hear from me tonight. There is no other speaker under ARPA this evening. So just want to bring to y'all's attention, during the consent agenda, you approved two different, oh, wait a second, you're fine. They don't want to listen to me. I don't blame them. That's fine.
You're fine.
I'm just not that interesting. That's all right.
I was gonna say, they're coming back in.
Okay.
Okay, Adam, go right ahead.
Oh, you're good. So under the consent agenda tonight, you all approved two more surpluses. Those were all for schools through the Rotary for some items that a couple of the schools had asked for. Other than that, we are still actively moving forward on all of the projects that you have previously approved. The water lines, we are actively working with Union County on that project right now. They are working through their funding options that they want to use for that. And then, other than that, at your upcoming budget meeting, whether you do it by itself or whether you do it when it's at a council meeting, we will be looking for, staff will make a recommendation to you for ARPA funds for the future years, and we'd be looking for you to approve or deny that recommendation at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm next, so I'm just going to stand here.
Okay. Go right ahead, Adam.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is paving Crooked Creek parking lot. So if anybody remembers Crooked Creek Park, I know most of y'all, we've gone over there with you at years in the past. The first parking lot when you enter the site is a gravel parking lot. That parking lot over the years has been talked about several times. Do we pave it or not? We're at a point now that we've got to start putting pretty substantial maintenance dollars into that parking lot. So we need to make a decision. Do we want to keep putting maintenance item dollars into it, or do we want to look for a quote to get it paved and move forward and not have that issue in the future? I'm not saying there's no maintenance with pavement, but there's less than a gravel parking lot.
Do you want a nod of the head, or do we need to make a motion?
No, tonight I'm really just looking for a nod of the head. What we would then do is we would go out and solicit 3 bids because we would be below the state requirement threshold.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre, you have a question?
The ongoing maintenance that you have to do to the lot, what is the actual cost of that?
Yep. So right now we're estimated having to spend about $25,000 in stone. That doesn't include our guys doing the actual work.
Frequency, yearly and monthly?
At this level, we haven't done it at this level yet, but annually we spend about $5,000 to $10,000 in gravel.
But the 25,000 would be an annual estimate.
It would be this year, and probably not next year, but the year after. Yes, it would become more frequent that we would need higher dollars of gravel.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I had on that, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mike.
We would ask the board to consider letting us go ahead and pave it. We can find the money, we can bring you a budget amendment, if you would like that. In addition to the maintenance, the rock can be a trip hazard, and it gets muddy, and we think it would enhance the park, and it would allow us to finish that section of the park development.
McIntyre?
Sorry, last question. That is if you're coming into the park, that is the parking lot to the right.
That's correct.
All right.
Yes.
What about the parking lot close to the shelters on the other side? Would it not be prudent to also get an cost estimate on paving that as well?
We most certainly could. What I would say is that I believe that the parking lot on the right is it's ready to be paved. The stone's compacted. We would just have to scrape off the top layer. When you look at the other one, there's a lot of prep work that would need to be done in that area. That's the reason why we didn't, but we can surely ask them to give us two different numbers.
That's all I had. That's really all I have, Mr. Mayor.
No, he got it. He answered it. You know, I'm familiar with both sides of the park. A lot of the left side's already paved, correct?
It is. There's a small overflow lot that's on
down there
that
where the
side.
picnic tables are,
Yes.
and that. Do you guys think, and I'm just curious, do you think of that as being more of gravel anyway? I mean, because it's so far off, it's not used as much, or what? I'm just curious.
No, I mean, we certainly would pave everything out there. You would limit your maintenance requirements from an annual basis. But that site just is going to take a little bit more work. That area is in the floodplain over there, so it is a wet area. So we would have to probably do some work.
Would it be advantageous to do that too?
It would be a little bit more difficult to do that side.
Okay.
That's the reason why we weren't
That's why I'm
requesting it
asking.
right now.
I'd see that as a different,
Yep.
totally different. But, yeah, any other questions? Okay, can everybody do this? All right, if you want to do
All right.
that, there we go. You
Yep,
got
so
it.
we'll get some bids and come back. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Adam. Yep. Okay, that brings us up to budget meeting. We talked about this earlier, about whether or not we wanted to do it before the next council meeting.
So-
Postponing in the date of when it was before, which I don't, it was the 20th. Right.
So I'll just go ahead and make a motion, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to reschedule the budget meeting slated for April 20th, 2023 to April 25th, 2023 with a start time of 5 p.m.
All in favor? Unanimous. Very good. Very good, okay. New business. Let's see, the retaining wall, Mr. Hunsinger.
Mayor, Council, we're basically coming to you tonight to revise the retaining wall policy. We have an existing one that's been around since 2009, and we need to update it. And really, we're basically just updating the code from the 09 to the 2018. Mainly, minor things are just changing section numbers that have been changed due to the update in the code. The major one is basically we've run into issues with the designer of the wall not being able to, because they do so many designs, they're not able to go out there and actually witness the wall being built. And the way our policy was written in 2009 was basically that we would need a sign off from them saying that it was built to their specifications and the drawings. And unfortunately, they can't do that. They rely on field personnel and pretty much another third party to be able to write that acceptance letter to us. So basically, that's what we're changing. We're changing the language in that paragraph to say that they can sign off on it as a witness, or they can have somebody sign off on it as a witness, basically, and they have to specify that in the plans. So I'm just here tonight to get you to approve that adjustment in the language.
Any questions? Can I get a motion?
I recommend a motion to approve the revisions to the retaining wall policy as presented.
All in favor? Unanimous. Very good. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Next is the Park Road East traffic analysis. The Sheriff's Department had a complaint about speeding again. As you may not remember, we did do a speed analysis back in April a year ago. And that based that speed analysis did come back and say that based on our traffic calming policy, that the road warrants traffic calming based on our policy. I made a recommendation in a memo to basically hold that conversion, if you want to say it that way. because of the town center starting to be developed, again, they just did phase 1. They're going to do other phases, and basically it's a 10-year build out of that development, which is basically going to be using that road. And so my recommendation was to hold off, let us let it build out a little bit, see some more traffic, and then and revisit it. So the sheriff's decided, because of the complaint, they were asked to go out there and put out their trailer, and their data basically came back sort of the same amount of data we had as far as statistics back in April of last year. So now my new recommendation is basically let's go out and let's use our traffic analysis box, because, again, they're using a trailer, and unfortunately you see the trailer, folks do slow down, so the data can be skewed a little bit. But we'll do a traffic analysis, see if it's the same, if it's increased or not. I think we got around 1,000 cars a day last time, and I don't feel like that's going to be any higher. Maybe a little bit, but not much. And so I think we need to wait for some more build out. We'll come back to you and give you the statistics, but I don't think the speed's going to change that much. I think it's still going to warrant a traffic calming. But I don't feel like we should put traffic calming in there right now. I think we should just stand by and just the sheriff can police it as much best he can when he can. Any questions?
Any questions? Very good. Thank you, Todd.
All right. Thank you all.
I have a question for Todd. Can you give us a little bit of an update on Indian Trail Road and the? I think that you're still working on getting. Duke Power to give you information as far as when you can start on the project?
Well, we'll tell you, I misspoke a little bit last time. I told y'all right away would be in April. Unfortunately, we have to submit that to DOT for approval, and unfortunately, they can't get it to their transportation board till May, and so I'm having to wait for authorization in May. So unfortunately, right away acquisition won't start till then. As far as the Duke Energy, we did get back. I haven't looked at them yet, but we did get back. We got Duke's estimate, but you've got Spectrum, Windstream, and those folks that are going to have to do upgrades at a cost. And I just now got that back, and so I don't have what that's going to be yet. But we're getting to that point where we're going to be able to. Taking that cost, come back to y'all with any adjustments that we need to bring to y'all, and then go from there. Because I don't know if it's going to. Remember, you have a approved budget for underground utilities at $5 million. My hope is, well, first of all, I know Duke's going to be lower than that, but my hope is the other utilities that we're going to have to pay for some betterment for stays within that $5 million. So then you basically would be squeezing all 3 or 4 utilities into that $5 million. So that is the hope. And I may go a little bit over that, but I'll let y'all know as soon as I know. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
All right. Thank y'all.
All right. So we don't have a closed session, and before we get to the manager's update, I'd just like to say 1 or 2 things that I should have said earlier. Karen Walters with us tonight, our attorney, who was our old attorney, and I should have said something when we started. And we've missed you. Now, Miss Cox has done a great job, but and listen, we love her too. So I want to get that out. But we have missed you, and we're happy that you get to come back every now and then. So welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back and see everybody. I appreciate it.
Very good. And Larry, I didn't notice you out there. With your hat on and all. It's good to see you here too, Larry. Okay. Now, manager's update.
Well, we're still out on First Avenue, and they have been working hard to put driveway culverts in. We appreciate Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Barber pointing out that there was a different name for a street sign and letting us know, and we took care of that. As long as the weather will cooperate, we will try to get that project finished as quickly as we can. It's kind of like the railroad, you know. Verizon did finally move their stuff, and the difficulty, whether we're talking about First Avenue or Indian Trail Road, is that there are so many moving parts of trying to get everybody coordinated to come out to do what they need to be doing. So we'll continue to monitor that. We're either out there every day or every other day, myself included. Councilmember Gay asked about Indian Trail Road Phase 1. Because we are using federal and state money, there's some extra hoops that we have to jump through, and one of those does involve the right-of-way. Chestnut Park Phase 2, we've gotten the prices in. We're kind of scoping those out, and once we have some more information, we will share those with you on that. Chestnut Park cameras, we're still having to work with Windstream to get the fiber optics out there. Because that park is so large, there's a number of hubs that we have to install. It's a fairly ambitious project for a town our size, but it is designed to improve safety and security in the parks. And so we'll let you know when that's ready to turn on. Excuse me, let me change that. I meant that for Crooked Creek. Chestnut Park, we've got everything done. We just need to install the cameras, and we're either going to have Adams folks, as soon as they can get caught up with some of their stuff, to get them installed, or we're going to have to find an outside contractor. Bobby has been instrumental, and he speaks the language of Wi-Fi and Windstream and stuff like that we don't speak. So, again, another safety improvement in the park. If there aren't any questions, I'll move on to upcoming items at our next meeting, in addition to the budget workshop, which we have scheduled from 5 to 6:30. Stormwater Committee will give an annual report. The Mayor Pro Tem, I think, is chairman of that committee. We do have a proclamation for you, an ARPA update, and we'll give you an update on the CARPO grant for electric charging stations. There were some questions about the match, and we'll be happy to explain that. We'll also be happy to explain what other towns have done for charging electricity when people want to use the system. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mike. I think that brings us to council comments.
You forgot.
Karen's not prepared.
I'll go first. I'll make it easy for you. All right. Want to just say thank you to Miss Anita Woods. She's sitting over there. Miss Woods came to us with a problem after the council meeting. She got involved in her community trying to get the roads repaved because the roads there were in pretty bad condition. Took a ride out there with the town manager, and we saw that. Also had some issues with a street sign for Devon in the Sandalwood community. So, Ms. Woods, I just want to say thank you to you for bringing that to our attention. I know quite a few residents have brought other issues to other council members. So if you have a problem, there's 6 people sitting up there. Get on them to get it done. Mike, I want to say thanks to you and your staff for working on this, making sure that we stay on top of it. As soon as it's complete, let's go ahead and try and bring it into the town, take it over. So therefore, if Ms. Woods has a problem in the future, she can come to you, and she doesn't have to, hear that the DOT owns the road. So let's try and get that done. Brandy, want to say thanks to you. Brandy has left the room, but thanks to Brandy and her staff, to Josue for translating tonight. This is the first time that I've had that, so that was pretty cool to see that we have somebody on staff that can do that. Todd Hunsinger, who's also left the room. Everybody's leaving the room, but Todd and his staff for the work that they're doing, especially on First Avenue. Hayden, you and your staff, is Hayden there? Yeah, keep doing the work that you guys are doing. We really do appreciate it. Jim, you, Alicia, and your staff, we do appreciate all the things that you guys do. Adam, is Adam still in the room? Adam, you and your staff, we do appreciate that. Abby, Trina, Carrie, Bobby, Captain Hunky, I'm not going to leave you out. We do appreciate all the things that you guys do. Karen, welcome back. It's nice to have you in the building, even if it's just for a short visit. Hopefully, I hope everybody had a really good Easter. Manager, one more thing, if I can add to the next meeting when you come, sir. If we can get an update on the county water access project, if we can update the council on that, where we are on that, that would be appreciated. That's all I have. Everybody have a very good evening. Thank you very much.
Ms. Bucolic.
Marcus said everything, so I don't have much to say, but I think tonight you kind of saw how public input really can, help us make good decisions. So I really appreciate everyone coming in and encourage you to continue. Other than that, thank you, everyone, and everybody have a great night.
Mr. Barber.
Thank you. Welcome back, Ms. Walter. First off, I'd like to give thoughts and prayers out to the family of Wileen Edwards, who passed away here. She was an Indian Trail native. Her and her husband were big in the Lions Club here. She was a lioness, and her husband, Stanley Edwards, who passed away years ago, was a member of the Indian Trail Lions Club, and he was also a honorary Melvin Jones Fellow for International Lions. That's one of the biggest awards you can get in Lions. So they did a lot here in town, and thoughts and prayers out to them. Also like to remind everybody, the FFA has their annual plant sale. That's this Friday and Saturday at Sun Valley High School. I'm gonna get my annual tomato plant and watch it die. But anyway, I'd like to congrats out to Jacob Crowley, who's our most recent Eagle Scout with Boy Scout Troop 276 here in town. Congratulations to that young man. Also, the Union County Chamber is hosting what's called a Photo Voice Art Show. It's this Saturday from 2 to 5 p.m. It's at 115 Henderson Street. What this is they have a collection of art that's created by families that have children with a disability or chronic health problems. So I don't know if they've done this before, but it's hosted by the Chamber. It is this Saturday, so if you want to see what these children are going through, you may want to attend. But other than that, I'd like to wish my mom an 80th happy birthday, and everybody have a nice evening. Thank you.
Mr. Gay.
I too would like to thank everybody for coming tonight for our meeting, and thanks for the feedback that we got from the residents. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, people are a little bit apathetic and they think that their voice doesn't count. And so I just want you to know that we do listen to the residents, and we look at the plans and we see if they fit in, if they don't fit in, and what the issues are. And so it's our duty to protect our way of life here for everyone. And so a lot of things go into the decisions that we make. I'd like to say hello to Larry Dunn. Hadn't seen him in a long while. He's doing a great job, chairman of the planning board. And I thank the staff for everything that they do for us. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you.
Mr. Amberby.
And just a reminder, it hits after 6 is next Thursday, 4/20. Guess what? It's after 6. It starts at 6. And Fleetwood Mac cover band will be here. I think I'd like to check that out myself. And we'd like to thank the Boy Scouts for coming out and showing their interest in what our town does. Congratulations, Brandon Oaks. I'm in Holly Park. I get the high density thing, and congratulations on that for you guys. And Karen, always good to see you. God bless you all. And he is risen. Good night.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Kudos to same staff. I'm not even going to compliment you tonight because I compliment you so much. Tonight, I'm just going to not say anything about you. But, I do think you're great. I wanted to make a quick comment. I brought up something in the last meeting, and I saw on social media and some emails written. I'd spoken about a senior center, and by no means are we going to have a tax increase or anything like that for a senior center. I thought it was a good idea because we have a lot of seniors that not only were interested, but the council has talked about buying land for over a year now, and possibly buying big chunks of land. And every time we talk about it, we always talk about or the fact comes up of a senior center or a community center. So therefore, it was natural for me to bring that up. And I had talked to a state representative who thought they could get us a couple $1 million, which I thought was even a better situation. But, nothing etched in stone about that. I love seeing Indian Trail move up. I believe that it would enhance our town. And not only is it a senior center, but it's a community center. It would be a multi-purpose center, and it would provide meeting spaces for sales meetings. I go I travel, and I go to sales meetings in Mooresville. Has an unbelievable senior center and community center. It's beautiful. And they bring in like 150 people for a sales meeting. There's lots of different things you can do with that type thing. It'd be a big boost to the economy. You got banquets, you got weddings. And one thing I think of too, and I'm always trying to make our town a better town. Wouldn't it be nice, and this is just me talking tonight, to have a wedding venue where the average guy could come down here and wouldn't have to, we wouldn't have to spend $50,000 on a wedding. That you could come down, it would be reasonable with a nice room that we have weddings, and for 10 grand, maybe we could get out of here with getting our daughters married. And I say that because I have a daughter that I think might get married. But let me stop right there. By no means is that why I want to build a community center or a senior center. It could be used, you know, we had a dinner theater here a few months ago, and we were talking about the size of the room for the dinner theater. We actually had, I think, 5 shows, if I'm not mistaken. I know Hayden's not in here. Or you are. Was it 5 shows, Hayden? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some days we had 2 shows. And we had it down in the Shirley Howe room, and it was full. I mean, it sold out like that. Probably could have sold it out 4 or 5 more different times. Could have had a room that was twice as big or 3 times as big to do that. Those are just, maybe you have a little venue where someone comes down, plays music, could be used. We just had the schools come down with the arts, and that was beautiful. But we used the whole downstairs for arts, if we had an art room for arts. And also, if kids and stuff wanted to come down and just do paint, do clay, this is not ideal for doing that here because it's messy. So you can do so many different things. But again, we're not here to build and get a tax increase. In all actuality, I was also told by someone else that there would be quite a bit more money that could go, because my idea, and this is just an idea, okay? And let me just say something too. Ideas start with a seed, okay? And a seed can grow. We can sit up here and we can not ever have an idea, and we can just let things go the way they are. But I was a big park pusher back in the day, 10 years ago. I had a lot of people that were against the parks. We're known for our parks now, and it's been great. We voted the best parks in Union County every year. So it is a seed, and it's out there just to see if it grows. I would like to see it done with state money. I'd like to see it done with county help. I'd like to see it done with private money for naming rights of it. And there's a lot of different ways. But tax increase, that ain't going to happen. There is not going to be a tax increase for senior or community center. Also heard, why didn't we keep the old community center that we used to have up there? The problem with that community center was it's already too small. They don't have a room. They already don't have one room as big as the Shirley Howe room. So that wouldn't work either. But please don't take what I said the wrong way. I'm here to see our town grow, to see our town be known for beautiful things. I'd like to see it happen in the downtown area, and I'd like to see us have a nice downtown someday with a senior/community center. And it could be called the Western Union County Senior Community Center. So the Weddington, Wesley Chapel, Stallings, and everybody could use it. And maybe y'all pitch in with money. But again, it's just an idea. It's just an idea. I could go on, but I'm not. I thank everybody for coming tonight. And I just wanted to straighten that out, that I'm not for a tax increase, that I'm just here to see our town grow and get better. And again, I thank you very much. We had a great coffee with the mayor, did we not, the other day in Brandon Oaks? I enjoyed that very much. And we'll do it. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. And I really appreciate y'all coming out tonight. And with that being said, I think we're done with all of our business. Can Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? We got.